I heard a twig snap, looked in this direction, that second tree, not the one with the stuff on it, the one right behind it, something was coming off the ground, pushed up with one hand into a walking position, and like pushed up and just started walking all in one motion, and it walked off this way. That tree right there is how far my niece got to there when I realized that whatever it was, when I thought it was human-sized, it was a lot larger than human-sized. And that was when I did not come back up in these woods for about a year. It was 12:30 at night. I was sitting on my fire with a female friend of mine. Maybe 45 minutes before that, I had seen headlights up in the woods. So I was like, you guys want to jump on the cart? Let's go up in the woods, see if anybody's up there. 3 different times, we stopped the golf cart, looked to the right, up in the woods, see if anybody's seen headlights. Did it again, maybe, a couple hundred feet. Stopped the 3rd time, and we were there for a minute, and we were talking, and we were all kind of looking to the right. And then I hear a twig snap to my left. I grew up my whole life in the woods, hunting and fishing, and I know if a twig snaps, something had to step on it. So I flipped my head to the left. The girl in the passenger side, which was the adult, turns to the left. I'm blocking her. The 15-year-old young lady on the back turns her head when we all hear this snap. When I turned my head, it was coming off the ground with its hand, stood up into a standing position, and started to walk. He was on my left, and it started to walk back away from us. And my golf cart was moving before I made a conscious thought to move. Like, it was just a flight reaction. The little girl on the back yelled, "What's that?" And then she said, "Go, go." Well, we were already going. So in the adrenaline of all this happening, and the passenger didn't see it, so she's like, what just happened? And we're all freaked out, adrenalined up. I passed the only trail I know how to get out of these woods, because like I said, I was only up there. So we were full throttle on fast as a golf cart would go, flying through these woods. We end up coming up onto this bean field, and I have to stop because I don't know where we are and how I need to get back to the camp. And I'll never forget, and I always tell that part of the story, because when I stopped and I looked over my shoulder to see if I could see lights, or I looked at that little girl, and she was so upset that the veins were coming out of her neck and spit was coming out of her mouth. And she said, "Just go," like with this fear. And I'm like, I can't, so it was almost like we were fighting because she was adrenaline up, I was adrenaline up. So we find the way out of the woods. Her camp was closer. I get to her camp, we are fired up, you can imagine, and her parents kind of get mad at me because they know I like that stuff. They think I'm messing with her. So we kind of just dropped her off. Like I said, by now it's 1:00 in the morning. The very next thing I did was call my research partner, Amy Boo. I wanted to repeat the whole story while it was fresh and my adrenaline was still going. When I got back to my camper, I seen a campfire across the lake. So I walked over there, and the people had been drinking, and I was kind of new to this campground, and I was like, "Hey, were you guys up in the woods?" Or, to see, because could it have been a human? Absolutely, we were there. Why would somebody be hiding in the woods? I mean, to scare their friends or something? And if it was when they stood up and we weren't their friends, knowing that we looked, why didn't they say something? Or, oh, wrong person? Or, so a lot was going through my head with why it happened like it happened. So I frequented back up in the woods a lot, and people would ask me, including my research partner, size-wise, and I said, human size. So maybe 3 months later, I have a family member with me that I know for sure is over 6 feet. We happen to be in that part of the woods. I said, "Hey, while I have you up here, jump off the cart. I'm gonna stop, you jump off the cart, walk over to that tree she wasn't 10 feet from my cart, and I already knew. My lips kind of stick to my teeth thinking about it. And it was a lot bigger. And to be honest with you, I lied to people for the next year when they wanted to go up in the woods. My golf cart's broke. I couldn't. And it was funny because I went up there a lot for 3 months until that happened, until I put her in that spot. And then I couldn't go back up.
Tina Sam's first encounter with the Sasquatch in the rolling hills of eastern Ohio shook her to the core. a feeling familiar to many who have run-ins with North America's elusive, undiscovered primate. How does someone cope with seeing something that to the average person is not supposed to exist? In Tina, this sighting awakened not only a primal sense of fear, but unlocked a newfound sense of curiosity and a compulsion to get to the bottom of the mystery surrounding Bigfoot. Here, we explore that mystery as we follow Tina on her journey to uncover the wild man of the woods.
We were camping in the Alleghenies. We were meeting some reporters from the Wall Street Journal. So 5 of us went up, my friend Amy, my friend Monica, my friend Kevin and his daughter, and myself. The first day we're there, we're nervous because it's the Wall Street Journal, and and the reporters in them weren't huge campers, so we were trying to be a little extra bougie so they'd be comfortable when they got there. And so we all go to sleep that night, and as I said, I'm bougie and I'm in a van. So we all go to sleep, and I'm in my van. My friend Monica's 5 feet from me in a tent. My friend Amy, maybe 30 feet from her. The other 2 were in hammocks, probably 50 feet from me, another 20 feet or something past Amy. So we're sleeping. I know I was awake because I had gotten up and I had gotten out of the bed, and I just got back in my cot and I lay down. Now, mind you, we are miles into the Alleghenies, miles and miles and miles. Like, once you turn on the dirt road, you're another half hour. Like, we are out there. So I lay back down. It is pitch black. Like, we're not by the fire. There's no lights. I mean, pitch black. Even laying in my van, I could do this and couldn't even see my own hand. I can't hear anything because I'm in my van. So at this moment, and the only reason I say this, the only sense I have is feeling right now, because everything else is null and void because I can't use it. And I start having what I called a medical emergency. And I'm laying in my cot. If this sound, boom, was a feeling, I start feeling this in my entire body, from my head to my feet. My entire body is doing this pulse thing. And I was like, oh my God, I've never felt anything like that before. I don't even know what a heart palpitation is, but I remember thinking, is that heart palpitation? Am I having a heart attack? Like, and I'm getting myself worked up so then I could get an adrenaline so I could feel my heart beating faster. And it was very rhythmic. And it was like, boom, boom. And I just feel it in every ounce of my body. And I'm thinking, I am an hour away from a hospital. Like, there is nowhere to go. Like, this is the worst place, this heart attack or whatever this is happening. And it was very tangible. Like, I could feel it. It wasn't, am I feeling something? It was, what in the hell is this that I'm feeling? So I'm gonna say maybe 2 minutes it lasted. And if I'm gonna be honest, like the last 10 seconds, I did have a quick flash thought, is that footfall? And then it was rhythmic, so it was doom, doom, and then it went doom, doom, doom. Now mind you, I'm not hearing that, I'm feeling that. 3 quick ones stops. So I'm like, okay, but I'm adrenalined up. So my heart's pounding and I don't know if I feel better or not because I'm scared now and of the medical emergency that I'm having. Like, that in my mind is what was happening. So about an hour later, I kind of finally fall back asleep. I hear all this ruckus outside of my van. So I open the van door and I'm like, what's going on? And Amy and Monica are up. Amy is visibly shaken, and I camped with Amy for 10 years. She's a tough chick. I've never seen her shook up like this. They tell me about this scream that they hear. Amy was awake. It was loud enough that it woke the other girl up. We get up the next morning, we're all having coffee. They're discussing this scream that they heard. They are both visibly shook over this, and these are good friends who I trust, and they're shook. Whatever that noise was, they have never heard it before, and they're not okay. Like, So as we're discussing it, I'm waiting for them to quit talking about it, and I say, well, in other news, I think I gotta drive home today. And they're like, why? And I was like, I think I had a little medical emergency, maybe my heart, I don't know if it was a heart attack, and at which point Kevin that's with us is like, why wouldn't you wake anybody up? I was like, well, because it stopped, and he was like, no, you wake me up if that ever happens again. So, and they're like, well, what happened? I said, well, I was laying there, and all of a sudden, I feel this pulse, and like I said, and as soon as I say that, Amy and Monica both whipped their heads around, and Amy said, oh my God, I felt that too. And Monica said, holy, I forgot about that. So I immediately went from, oh, thank God I'm not dying, to back to, well, then what the hell was it? And when they said that, I'm in a van on a cot. They're in tents 30 feet apart. What? And I'm not saying it was Bigfoot, but we looked into fracking. We looked into seismic activity. We looked into everything it could be. And weeks later, we were talking, and two things happened during that conversation. One, we found out that we were all still having nightmares from that we didn't say to each other. We didn't tell each other that. One of us said, I've been having nightmares, and we're like, oh my God, I have too. The other thing was, Amy said, if you remember that part in Jurassic Park with the water glass, and when she said that, I couldn't hear or see, but when she said that, it really resonated, because I was like, oh my God, if I knew what that felt like that was making that water, that could explain what I felt. And it was scary. It altered me probably more than my other sighting as far as being in the deep woods. And I didn't even see anything, but it was scary.
Lingering nightmares are a common experience for those like Tina who have had terrifying encounters with Bigfoot. The intense fear and shock of such an event can leave a lasting psychological impact, often manifesting as vivid, recurring dreams. Tina decided to take action and attempt to get to the bottom of the Bigfoot mystery. Instead of being haunted by that night, she began to seek out others with similar experiences with the wild man of the woods. She found just what she was looking for by soliciting encounter reports from sportsmen and women at hunting and fishing shows across the Midwest.
Something I do a lot is my research partner, Amy Boo, she was the one that started it, and she got a gig at an outdoor show. All of the booths were fishing charters, hunting charters, lures, and they wanted a Bigfoot booth there. And we giggled that we didn't know if they were gonna throw tomatoes at us or what, but ironically, it ended up to be a grand place for encounters and sightings from people, because if you think about it, those are the people that are in the woods, the hunters, the fisherwomen, they're the ones that are out in the woods. And we did 2 outdoor shows a couple weeks apart. And with those 2 shows combined, I believe we took 87 reports. And one thing that is a running factor with those reports is most of them, a very large part of them, they never told anybody. Maybe their wife, maybe a good friend, probably got made fun of, buried it for a while. I feel grateful that they feel comfortable enough to come share them with us. But the thing is there's a lot of emotion involved in a lot of these reports. I mean, there was a fella, older fella, he was in his 70s, walking around the hunt and fishing show, probably stopped at the booth 3 or 4 times, a little bit of small talk the first time, a little bit of Bigfoot talk, came back. I bet you came back 3 or 4 times. He must have felt comfortable enough. The 4th time he comes back, he's telling us that he owns some property, hunts right on his own property, and he was just standing at his window one day, looking out his window, and where his, I would say like a field, semi-manicured field meets the wood line, he's looking out the window and there is a Bigfoot standing there. And there is no doubt in his mind that that's what he's seen. Positively, that was it. And he went on to tell us, and this is the guy that ended up tearing up, that it ruined him because hunting and fishing was his Christmas. That's all he did. He was shopping for the stuff and he was in the woods. And he could not get himself to go back in those woods, to the point where he sold the property, ended up selling it to his son, who he never told about that. But he was so distraught, and it wasn't aggressive towards him. It didn't even see him. He was in his house. But what he said was, I'm looking at something that's not supposed to exist. And it completely rocked his reality. And I would say, I'm not a doctor, probably had PTSD from it. And he literally teared up about it, to the point where Amy and I teared up with him, and we were hugging him, and he was very emotionally not okay from what happened to him.
Some people who witness Bigfoot are emotionally scarred and can develop PTSD-like symptoms from the shock and fear of the encounter. Often, these witnesses choose to remain silent about what they saw, fearing ridicule and disbelief from others. The stigma surrounding Bigfoot sightings further adds to their isolation, making it difficult for them to process the trauma or to seek support, which can intensify their emotional burden over time. As we near the end of our journey, let's explore the light at the end of the tunnel for the quest in discovering Sasquatch. Tina, an energetic member of Project Zoobook, explains what this group is and what it means for her and the Bigfoot community at large.
Well, I have to say, and I'm probably going to get excited, Project Zoobook, it's a dream come true. And from what it started with, because I was one of the original members of Project Zoobook, and what it's morphed into, one of the main things is bringing together the researchers and the scientists, and bringing together the scientists, and how many times there are happy accidents that come out of very basic conversations that we're having. We're talking about one time fingerprints left on vehicles, and we have primatologists on the call. And we were just talking about that sticky white stuff, which led into these great ape keepers talking about the juvenile silverbacks, and they're hormonal, and when they get wrestling, and they actually distribute this white foam from their armpits, you could see it. And the smell when a male silverback and a male silverback go at it, the smell that illuminates, that the keepers can clearly smell, like to the point where it almost gags them. They said, like, think teenage boy times 10 plus throw a dead dog in there. And so we might just be talking about something casual, and there's this connection made, might be on the chat, where someone says, hey, you know that white stuff, that's the handprints, or you're not saying that that's connected, but that was the only example I could think of. But there's so many happy accidents like that where it's just a casual thing, talking about one thing, and someone that has more knowledge in another area hears that and has a very good, valid something that had to do with that wasn't part of the conversation. And that happens a lot. And then the scientists that maybe didn't know each other, and they'll say, hey, you mentioned blah, blah, blah. You mind if I give you a call off camera? So it's hooking up the sharing of all this data and all this knowledge. And like I said, sometimes it really comes from a very innocent conversation that somebody catches that we didn't think anything of.
As we conclude our journey with Tina into the enduring enigma of Sasquatch, it's crucial to consider a larger issue that affects not just our curiosity about the mysterious creature, but also the deep, dark woodlands in which it resides. These forests are critical for biodiversity and for providing refuge for all of Ohio's wildlife. If we continue to deplete and degrade our natural landscapes, we jeopardize the future of not only the animals we cherish, but also the possibility of uncovering the truth about Sasquatch. The Wild Wishes program grants wildlife encounters for children facing special challenges, ranging from traumatic loss of parent or siblings to critical illness, depression, and other challenging life issues. And yes, we even do Bigfoot expeditions for these kids. If you know of a kid that might qualify, go to kingdomzoo.com or email me at chester@chestermore.com.